By the way, then the good doctor started talking about, obviously, in exchange value, that then led to the use of currency. You know, it's quite interesting. If the good doctor read Wealth of Nation, the book by Adam Smith, he's considered one of the fathers of capitalism. You know, as he says that the communist and socialist, not only they should read communist and socialist materials. I think it's advisable for him to also read such books. There's a brilliant way in which Adam Smith explains the division of labor, and also starts talking about the exchangeable value, where he talks about how the currency started being used. You know, he broke it down about exchange about cows, you know, back in the days, as one of the exchange ways of value. And then he started talking about the usage of coins, silver, copper, gold, until a time where each and everything was then, when the currency money came into being, was then based on the gold standard. Basically, for instance, 1 rand would equate to a certain number, to a certain grams of gold. Or let me just give an example by 100 rand. So back in the day, when you having 100 rand, which was circulating in the market, that specific 100 rand had its little partner at the lockdown, at the old version of the Reserve Bank. The 100 rand wasn't actually the money itself. It was like some sort of it was like how can I put it? It was some sort of like a certificate that indicates that you, the doctor, the good doctor, this 100 rand that you're holding has its actual money, which is based in gold. That's how the currency were then evaluated or valued at that time, until a time where there was I don't know, I forgot the name of the president there, who then delinked gold from the money paper, and then that's when things started to go haywire. And I think it happened because of the wars where then the reserve banks were forced to start printing money, which then led to inflation and to what we are seeing right now. You know, I think that one has to then start looking around and seeing what is the right way of persuading or having negotiations with bank, or in terms of how then we should influence or make sure that the reserve banks are living up to their mandate, okay, of controlling the currencies and so forth. Because right now, the progressives and the socialists and the communists would just say that, hey, we need a living wage of 20 rand per hour, setting prices as if they are the market. They don't understand that if you do that, for example, if you go to a company and say, from now on, I want a living wage to be 50 rands per hour, the company is going to look at the number of employees that they are hiring. Oh, we have 10,000 here, and if we increase this amount to about 50 bucks, okay, I think we have to then retrench this certain number of employees. Or if we don't do that, maybe we might go down as a company, or probably file for bankruptcy and beg for the government to bail us, So these are the things that politicians should look at.
The biggest dream of capitalists is to have workers out of the factories and have the machines that produce. That will have a lot of complications. One, the first complication is, of course, the machine is going to get there. You don't pay wages. It gets there, and then, it produces for you. It's part of the factors of production. You no longer have a person negotiating medical aid and so on and so forth. But in the long run, that machine, unlike human beings, you're going to have a situation where profits begin to fall. You're going to have a situation where either they stay the same because you can't manipulate, you can't take, the machine input down. It's like stays the same. But the second problem that it can present is that it means now there are people out there who don't have machines, who don't have factories, and they don't have money to buy because they are not employed. As a result, who's buying your products? Who's going to buy your products? If all the factories in the world are full of machines, it's going to have a crisis of oversupply, a crisis of overproduction, that they are not given truly the amount of the things that they produce. They are given little. And this is the point of exploitation, the point of disjuncture between those who own and those who don't own. And this is the origins of the class struggle, is that workers constantly have to grow into understanding and appreciating that they are the real producers, that they are the ones that make the economy to move. They are the ones that are the driving force of this capitalist civilization. So how do we resolve this whole cycle? They have to struggle, they have to unite, they can't fight on their own. You can't negotiate the wage on your own. You can't negotiate a pension fund on your own. You have to unite. But ultimately, the greatest, most important breakthrough is to take over production directly and produce for yourselves. And this is the beginning, as it were, of socialism. As I said, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, if indeed machines are going to replace people at the production side, it's a welcome opportunity. But the left has to work hard that when that occurs, an alternative society becomes socialism. Because socialism is not automatic. Socialism is not inevitable. Socialism doesn't mean because the system of capitalism falls apart, then socialism will happen. No. Socialism is a conscious system. It is a system that must be consciously chosen, that must be consciously built.
My favorite part here is where Dr. Ndlozi, well, it's not him, obviously, it's Karl Marx, through him, the disciple, where they're constantly saying that capitalism's purpose is to have production of goods for profit sake, for only profit sake. You don't imagine owning having a vision of owning a multi-corporation entity. So you're producing, you're making a whole lot of profits. A socialist would say, man, why are you having 10 billion in your bank account? You should take that 10 billion and share it among the workers, because you're nothing without those workers. Whereas an individual of which the socialists don't like and they don't want, is that person has a vision. Okay? Think of McDonald's. You should watch a movie, The Founder, McDonald's. It's a multi-corporation company. Had they listened to socialists or communists, or maybe had they been formed in a communist nation, probably they wouldn't even have more than 10 branches, But they are out there worldwide. So if you put in that 20 billion in your account, that 20 billion, you're constantly thinking, okay, I started my business in Joburg City. My 5-year target is to be able to open 5 businesses in Free State. The next 10 years, 10 businesses in maybe across three provinces. And as you have more and more businesses, this means more and more hiring of people who are out there looking for jobs, looking for ways to put food on the table of their family. See what I mean? So, but obviously socialists don't see that. And you can see they never talk about how they're going to start their own businesses. It's never like that. It's like, let's wait. We're going to nationalize all the businesses, whatever sector that we like to nationalize. That's what they do. Why can't communist leadership or communist governed, or should I just say rule, because communists don't govern, they rule places, why don't they start competing businesses? If you see a petroleum industry, you open up another petroleum industry that competes with the corporate petroleum industry and so forth. But they don't do that, you know. And the ultimate utopia of communism that Dr. Ndlozi speaks about, it's a time where now artificial intelligence is now able to reproduce itself, and the workers now, you know, there's food, there's a chicken in each and every pot now, and the only thing that now we could do is to be able to just play sports, be a soccer player, you'll be a basketball player, and everything has been taken care of itself by the machine. Well, you say have to watch Elon Musk and see his concern about robots taking over, because if they're taking over, if we right now don't have legislation, and it has to be quick legislation because robotics are moving way fast, legislation in order for us to find out how we can slowly phase it in a way that in the future it doesn't take over, say, because we would then be looking like ants, okay? Or maybe if those robotics, the artificial intelligence, would by then think that communism is a great idea, probably those robots will be the new workers in communism, and they're going to be saying, we are the proletariat robots and we don't want to be ruled by people. And then they will crash, you know, in your analogy, then they will crash us as individuals, and then we have a communist robotic utopia.
So capitalism it gets this right. It gets production, innovation, industry right. But its most biggest disadvantage is that all these things are driven. They are driven for the maximization of profit for those who own. And those who own are always few. Always few historically, and they will always be few because they require masses and masses of people to work. With the fourth industrial revolution, majority of the time we're going to have machines, particularly with artificial intelligence, machines producing things. That's one of the grounds for the elimination of the selling of labor power, is that let us produce as much as possible for everybody to be included, and finally human beings can focus on other things like culture, like poetry, like athletics, like sports, knowing that I don't have to wake up tomorrow and go slave so that they can be guava juice on the shelf. If the machines are doing that, human beings can disarticulate themselves from selling their wage and from work as it were, which is like the socially necessary labor, and then begin to do and invest their energy on other things. The working class that is grassrooted, bringing about that alternative. If we don't do that, the bosses will still tell us after the completion of the fourth industrial revolution as to how we live and how they become rich, how we constantly live for them. So it means if they're no longer doing that, you'll see sports will start being the biggest thing. You know, we'll all want to develop ability. If you don't play sports, you are unable to get a wage. If you can't paint, if you can't sculpture, those will be the last elements, the last things out of aesthetics, out of culture that will be making people get money because machines are going to be in charge of everything else. So people might develop, you can't go into F&B and watch. You want to watch human beings being skillful. So sports and other forms of culture may be the last thing that people will be doing in order to get the wage.
We take from each according to their ability, and we distribute to each according to their need. So that's his take on socialism. Okay. So the funny part about this part is, imagine if there was no individual entrepreneurship in a communist state. Well, although communism doesn't even talk about the state, communism is going to be a stateless world. For communism to succeed is that all over 170 countries of planet Earth, all the workers of these countries on this planet Earth has to overthrow all the capitalists or the capitalist system, and they themselves would then run their businesses. And as a result, the end will be the world where it's a communist planet, okay? But what's not going to happen is that there will be a lack of ideas. There will be a lack of individual ideas. There wouldn't be an idea where a person would just say, you know what, let me just start, let me make an iPhone, let me come up with an idea to make an iPhone. Because whatever businesses that will be operating, right, they're not going to be run by an individual with a vision in order to increase their vision and probably break into a different industry and just expand. No. It's going to be us, the workers. So in an essence, there wouldn't be an individual who's going to start up a business by themselves, because when you start up a business, you come up with ideas, you build up a business, all the pain, the pressure and everything of starting up a business, and when the business is thriving, and then the communist hoi polloi will be like coming through, swooping into your business. So what would encourage you to have the zeal to start up something of which people are just going to jump on it and own it and say we are living in an utopian communist world? Nothing. That's why you can go everywhere, over 24 communist/socialist countries, they never got successful in terms of having a stable country. It never happened. There's not such a place where it happened. In fact, in this presentation by Dr. Ndlozi, he speaks about a perfect example as China. But you know what? I'll be speaking about China, in fact, doing a rebuttal on it being purported to be a successful communist utopia, when I'm going to do a take on the Communist Manifesto by Floyd Shibambo. That's my take. Thanks for listening to the Mamuji Show, and I'm out.